My husband refused to forgive me because of a misunderstanding and filed for divorce. 9 years later, he found out the truth and showed up on the doorstep of my house. I'm 38. I divorced my ex-husband, Nick, who is now 40, almost 9 years ago. We were married for 3 years and he was a good husband. But because of a serious misunderstanding, he left me and a few days later sent me divorce papers. He didn't even give me the chance to explain anything, so he never learned the truth. I was deeply hurt by how quickly he decided to leave. I didn't contest the divorce and just let him go. At that time, I was a housewife. And then one day, Nick came home and found my ex-boyfriend Joe at our house. He silently turned around and left. The three of us had known each other since college, and I only dated Joe for 3 months before realizing I had feelings for Nick. Joe came to visit to invite Nick and me to his wedding, which was supposed to take place in a few months. And that's it. Nothing strange or suspicious. I would never cheat on my partner. But Nick just decided that I was betraying him and left without saying a word. I tried to run after him, called him, but he drove away as fast as he could and blocked me everywhere. So I couldn't reach him or explain what happened. I didn't even know where he was, and the next 2 days I just cried and panicked. Joe, on his part, also tried to reach him to explain everything, but Nick blocked him too. I was devastated. But I believed that when his anger subsided, Nick would come back, and I would tell him everything, and we would return to normal life. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. A few days later, he filed for divorce. I was desperate and didn't know what to do. I just needed to explain myself, but he decided I wasn't even worthy of that. And with a heavy heart, I stopped fighting for our marriage and let him go. I didn't contest the divorce. When the divorce process began, I packed my things and moved in with a friend until I found a job and could afford to rent a place. It took time, but I got back on my feet and didn't let myself fall into depression from what was happening. I was angry at Nick's behavior, and I'm still angry. I deserved a second chance or at least an opportunity to explain myself, but even after so many years together, he didn't consider me worthy of it. I felt betrayal and pain, but I understood that now I had to take care of only myself. I found a job and eventually rented my own apartment. By that time, the divorce was finalized. And although I got almost nothing from him, I felt satisfied. I just wanted to move on, and that's exactly what I did. I still went to Joe's wedding a month after my own divorce and enjoyed spending time with old college friends. Nick, as I expected, didn't show up, and most acquaintances were shocked that we had broken up. Everyone was sure we would stay together forever, just like I was. But life turned out differently. Attending Joe's wedding turned out to be, damn it, the best decision of my life, because that's where I met Chris. He's 40, the man I am now married to and with whom I have a daughter. We talked at Joe's wedding, and I immediately felt a spark, but I held back because I had just divorced. I wanted to sort myself out first before jumping headfirst into a new relationship. I wanted to take a break from men, so we just exchanged numbers, but I didn't text him for a long time. A year later, when I finally recovered and felt ready to date, fate brought Chris and me together again. We met at a work event since we work in the same field. Then I finally agreed to go on a date with him. 2 years later, we got married, and another year later, we had a daughter who is now 5. A lot of time has passed since my divorce from Nick, and I am a completely different person now. So you can imagine my shock when, after so many years, Nick suddenly appeared at my doorstep. It happened just a few days ago, and I still can't get over the shock. I don't know how he found me, and I didn't bother to find out, because I honestly didn't care. It was Saturday. My husband, my daughter, and I were at home when the doorbell rang. I was stunned to see Nick with a bouquet of roses and a wide smile, as if nothing had happened and so many years hadn't passed. Before I could even process what was happening, he started talking. He said that a few weeks ago he found out from a friend that Joe was married to another woman, not me, and finally realized that he had misunderstood everything back then. He said he wanted to give us a second chance, and that's why he came to ask for forgiveness for everything he did. I didn't know what to say to him. He divorced me over a misunderstanding, without even trying to learn the truth. That alone was absurd enough. But now, after 9 years of complete silence, he came back thinking he could just smooth everything over with words and get a second chance, when he once deprived me of that very chance. Yeah, right. He kept talking, and I silently looked at him, trying to decide what to do next. I really wanted to slam the door in his face, but that didn't seem humiliating enough. I decided to do something far more insulting. I told him to wait and went back to the living room, where my husband and daughter were waiting. I didn't have time to explain. I just picked up my daughter and told Chris, "Come with me to the front door." Can you imagine what happened next? Nick was shocked when he saw me walking toward him with my daughter in my arms, and behind me my husband. I smiled at him and told him he was a little too late to ask for a second chance, and told him to get out. After a second of silence, he turned around, ran to his car, and drove off without saying another word. I was very pleased with myself and finally felt that very sense of closure that I had been missing all these years. When he left, I sat Chris down and told him that it was Nick and what exactly he had said to me. In the end, we laughed about it together. Nick clearly overestimated himself. If he really thought that I would just take him back after what he did to me 9 years ago, I don't even understand why he thought it would be a good idea. And to just show up suddenly, without even bothering to find out what's going on in my life now? One glance at my social media would have shown him that I am married and have a child. But he probably couldn't see that because my accounts are all private. And still, he could have asked our old friends, tried to find out how I was doing. Chris thinks he is so self-absorbed that he probably was convinced I had just been waiting for him all this time and hoping he would someday come back. And honestly, that's a very accurate assessment of his character, even though Chris has never spoken to him. Update 1. A few days passed, and I thought Nick would leave me alone after everything that happened. But this morning he wrote me a message on Facebook from a new account. He said he was terribly hurt by what I did. He allegedly sincerely wanted to apologize for everything that happened in the past, and I supposedly made a fool out of him. He still says he's sorry, but at the same time he thinks I also owe him an apology for trying to humiliate him. I decided not to respond to his messages. He doesn't deserve a drop of my sympathy or forgiveness, let alone that apology. My husband was right. Nick really was convinced that I had been waiting for him all this time and would gladly take him back when he finally deigned to return. He was always selfish, and unfortunately, 9 years ago, I ignored all the red flags before the wedding. And they were always there. He didn't suddenly become different. I was just blinded by love and didn't see who he really was. When we were together, Nick constantly put me in awkward and unpleasant situations if other men were around, even if they were just friends. He didn't say it directly, but later he would make scenes and start fights. So in the end, I began avoiding communication with male friends and only talked to them in Nick's presence and never without him. He also insisted that I quit my job and become a housewife because his work required long hours at the office, and he wanted the house ready for his return and didn't trust anyone but me. At that time, it was nice to hear, and I gladly left. A well-paying job to be the perfect wife for him. And despite everything I sacrificed for him, he didn't even give me the chance to explain myself. I always felt that Nick was especially jealous of Joe, since he was my first boyfriend in college before Nick. And that's why Nick was especially possessive when it came to Joe, even though he had no reason for it. I was always faithful to him and couldn't even imagine cheating on someone. But apparently, he didn't consider me trustworthy. After the divorce, it was very hard for me. It took me a long time to pull myself together and give love a second chance. Many of you wrote that I moved on from one relationship to another too quickly. Maybe that's true. I don't know. I can't completely deny it. Because starting a new relationship a year after a divorce may seem hasty to some. But I'm glad I took that step. I took a risk, And that's exactly why I now have the best husband and a wonderful daughter. So I think I'm quite satisfied with how my life turned out. I'm not going to apologize to Nick, but I suppose I still should thank him, because if he hadn't left back then, I might have gotten stuck in an unhappy marriage. Second update. So, I found out a couple more things about Nick. Turns out he didn't know anything about my life because he deleted all his social media and had been living in Seoul for the past few years for work, which completely cut him off from his old college friends. He only came back a month ago and contacted one of his buddies, who didn't really talk to me, so he didn't know about my marriage, but knew that Joe was married, only that, and passed it on to Nick. That's how he ended up on my doorstep. It's still strange that he decided to come to me after almost 10 years of complete silence. But whatever, I've already gotten over it. After I ignored his message, he didn't write again, and I don't think he will. I told Joe what happened, and even he was shocked by Nick's audacity, showing up without warning, expecting me to just take him back, and even demanding an apology from me for deciding to give him a taste of his own medicine, just like he once did to me. My daughter asked me who that man was, but I didn't tell her the truth. She doesn't need to know. I said he just mixed up the address. That calmed her down, and she didn't ask anymore. I think I'll never tell her who it really was, unless she somehow finds out herself, which, honestly, is extremely unlikely. Third update. Nick wrote to me again almost a week later. Apparently, I forgot to block him, which of course was stupid of me, but I've been very busy with work, so I don't blame myself too much. In his message, he said that he wanted to talk about a lot of things and that he wanted to meet. He also said he wasn't at all bothered that I have a husband and daughter, and that he still wanted to give our relationship another chance because he was sure I wanted that too. Basically, Nick was hinting that I was ready to cheat on my husband with him. The irony is insane, since it was exactly cheating that he accused me of 9 years ago. I was speechless when I read that message. It was absolutely disgusting. I couldn't believe he even had the audacity to write something like that to me, and that he seriously thought I would agree. I told him to leave me alone and immediately blocked his number because I sure as hell don't need that man back in my life. It's disgusting how he still sees nothing but himself. I don't understand why he keeps believing that I still have any feelings left for him other than hatred. I made it very clear when he came to my house that I didn't care about him and that the only thing that matters to me now is my family. He should have gotten that hint and disappeared instead of continuing to show how pathetic and despicable he is. Fourth update. It's just funny how some of you accuse me of still caring about Nick. No, I absolutely don't need him. Moreover, I hate him. And of course I told Chris about that message. I'm not a cheater and I never was. So naturally I discuss such things with my husband. I love him more than anything in the world and would never do anything to put our marriage at risk. The only reason I even opened the door to Nick that time is because of my stupid habit of not checking who's outside, especially when my husband is home. I'm trying to work on that, but still, I would never consciously let Nick back into my life. I don't want him in it. I'm sick of even being accused otherwise. I hope now everything is clear. Fifth update. So Nick showed up again, but this time I didn't open the door because I checked first who it was. Luckily, my daughter was with my husband at his parents'. I was supposed to go with them too, but I got stuck at work. When I realized it was Nick outside, I told him through the door that he had to leave and that he wasn't welcome anymore. I thought I made myself clear enough and that he'd leave, but he refused to listen. He said he was only going to stay in the city for a couple more weeks before moving to another country. I didn't care at all why he was telling me this, but then he added that this actually worked in our favor. He said I didn't need to resist anymore and that now we could finally be together. I couldn't believe he was standing right outside my house suggesting I cheat on my husband. I felt disgusted and sick, and I immediately told him he had 3 seconds to leave or I would call the police. He didn't take it seriously and decided to stay. So I really did call the police, and they took him away. I'm so glad my daughter didn't see any of this. Right after, I called my husband, and Chris came less than half an hour later to make sure I was okay. And I really was okay, just a bit shaken by what happened. I still don't understand how he found out where I live. That friend who told him Joe was married to another woman wasn't even close enough to me to know I was married, let alone where I live. So it definitely wasn't him. Now I feel uncomfortable and uneasy in my own house, and I hate that. Thankfully, Nick will only be here for a couple more weeks, and I really hope after that he'll disappear from my life. What worries me the most isn't even for myself, but for my daughter. I'm not saying he's dangerous. Nick doesn't seem crazy yet, but I wouldn't rule it out. Even today, while I was hiding in the living room waiting for the police, he was begging me to give him a chance. He thought I was bluffing and didn't believe I had actually called, even though he heard me reporting him on the phone. I think this is just another stage of his delusion. We're planning to increase security. We're going to talk to his uncle, who works in the police, to get advice on what to do next, because this is getting too strange and frightening. I don't want to just sit and wait for what he might come up with next time. 6th update. I think I figured out how Nick found me. I talked to a few college friends, and it turned out that one of them accidentally gave my address to one of Nick's old friends. When I told her what had happened, she apologized several times and said she just forgot to ask my permission first. Naturally, I'm still angry, because her forgetfulness caused me so many problems. Now I've decided to keep my distance from her, because what she did was incredibly stupid. You can't just hand out other people's addresses without asking first. I feel like even a second grader would understand something that simple. After the police came and took Nick away from our property, I haven't heard from him again. But Chris and I are still seriously considering moving, just in case he lied about leaving in a couple of weeks. We don't want to risk it, especially since our daughter's school is so close by, and I keep feeling more paranoid and anxious about how this all turned out. So moving is still on the table. The only thing holding us back is our daughter. She loves our house and was very upset when she found out we might have to leave. If anyone has advice on how to handle this, I'd be grateful. 7th update. Nick went to Canada, and several people confirmed it to me, so now I know for sure he really left. He sent me one more message after I called the police, saying he still believed that something could have happened between us that day, that I just got scared and didn't let myself take the step. He said he would wait for the day when I, like him, would realize I still loved him, and that my husband was just an obstacle between us and nothing more. He even offered to adopt my daughter to prove how devoted he was to me, and he sent his address in Canada so that I could reach him when I was ready. I couldn't believe people could be that detached from reality, but the main thing is, he left. He wrote from a new number, so I blocked that one too, and that's it. I won't have to deal with his delusions anymore or be afraid he'll show up at my house again unannounced. What I'm most happy about is that we didn't have to move. My daughter is happy. She gets to stay in the house she loves, and as long as she's happy and safe, I don't need anything else. Now I can finally feel at peace knowing nothing is threatening us, although we still kept all the security measures in place, just in case. Chris and I read that last message from Nick together while sitting on the couch, drinking wine, and watching our daughter play. And it was just so absurd. Even after seeing my family, Nick still believes I could ever want him. I can't even imagine how a person can be so obsessed with themselves. I even forwarded that message to Joe, and he reacted the same way we did. I still haven't spoken to the friend who gave away my address. What she did was extremely irresponsible. And as a mother, she should have understood. She put not only me, but my whole family at risk, and I can't forgive her for that. Anyway, in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to go to the sea. It's our daughter's favorite place. We just want to breathe out and relax, because the past couple of weeks have been really stressful. I feel like I've earned this rest. Thank you all for your support and kind words. Hugs. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Check out our previous video, which you can see right here, and good luck to you.